Hello everyone, welcome back to Horror Mystery Rewind. Today we will talk about the horror fantasy movie Troll, which was released in 2022. Leave a comment if explanation is okay or any changes needed. Spoilers ahead, enjoy and take care of yourself. A father and daughter climb to Troll Peaks at the beginning of the film. After mounting, the father Tobias tells his daughter Nora the troll folktale. He then informs her that the massive mountain in front of them is actually formed of fossilized trolls. At first, Nora does not accept this, considering it to be only a ridiculous fairy tale. She is surprised to see the trolls' faces on the large mountain when the sun falls upon it. A team of archaeologists is currently conducting an excavation near the ocean in search of dinosaur bones 20 years later. One of these people is Nora, who is currently a professor of paleontology. Her teammate has informed her that the university has stopped supporting them because there are no dinosaurs to be found. Nora, however, will not give up. Fortunately, she finds some dinosaur bones right then and there, much to the surprise of her and her teammates. A team of miners is meanwhile excavating a tunnel through Troll Peak Mountain to serve as a route for their subway project. Therefore, some protesters in the area yell at them to stop since what they are doing will ruin the stunning mountains. The miners then show to the demonstrators that they are unstoppable using some strong dynamite. The tunnel suddenly rumbles and collapses as the miners enter it to investigate the outcome of the explosion, killing them instantaneously. The Norwegian military immediately dispatches 3 planes to scout the area after detecting this intense activity coming from Troll Peaks Mountain. The general promptly informs the Prime Minister of the situation after spotting a sizable hole in the mountain. The Prime Minister is informed about the large footprints that have been discovered nearby in addition to the large hole they have found. They are therefore forced to assemble the top scientists who can assist them in determining the source of the hole and the footprints. Nora, who is currently rejoicing with her team after discovering priceless dinosaur bones, is one of these people who they hire. The military immediately flies her back to the capital so she may receive a briefing on what had happened. She runs into Andreas, the Prime Minister's counselor, who whisks her away into the dark conference room filled with generals, scientists, and other experts. Nora is a professor of paleontology, therefore her knowledge is helpful for the meeting as well. She is mocked by some experts, who believe she only understands dinosaurs. Following that, other researchers begin to presume about the gaps. But Nora observes that they clearly resemble footsteps. They make fun of her once more because no creature that size could leave such footprints. Here, an intelligence agent named Sigrid enters the conference room to play the video from the earlier mining accident, confirming that a creature is truly to blame for all of this. The other scientists still think it is not a creature in spite of the video. However, Nora is fisty and prefers to act right away rather than just debating if it is real or not. Nora is given the role of a scientific advisor since the Prime Minister appreciates her attitude. Andreas then informs her that they must travel to a valley because of a recent occurrence concerning the home of an elderly couple. Although they had not seen it with their own eyes, an elderly couple previously has a terrifying close brush with the beast when their house is stepped on by it. In light of this, Nora and Andreas fly there right away. While they wait, Andreas chats with her about her interest in paleontology, which she credits to her early love of the outdoors. She then informs him that her mother has passed away and that her father lost his mind at some point in his life as a result of having too many fairy tales to believe in. Andreas then admits that he always wants to be a writer, but Nora is not listening anymore because she sees the elderly couple's house in ruins. A soldier, Chris, briefs them about what happened. He tells them that the creature walked in the region and then suddenly stopped south, which is miles away from their location. Afterward, the 3 of them head to attend to interview the traumatized elderly couple. The old man reveals that the recent incident felt like a mountain was moving toward their direction, and his wife adds that she heard a sad-sounding howl emanating from this moving mountain. After taking the elderly couple's testimonies, the 3 head outside to continue their investigation of the place. There, Nora checks the footprint using UV light to see if the creature has left a biological imprint. However, she sees nothing but rocks and stones. They then head south to where the footprints are said to have suddenly stopped. While inside the helicopter, the soldier tells Nora that the footprints stopped in a rocky location, which is impossible because the creature is too big to just disappear like magic. all of the details do not add up and have only confused Nora so far. For this reason, she asks them to go to his father. As such, they head to a small cabin in the middle of nowhere where an old unkempt man greets them with a shotgun and a threat. It turns out to be Tobias, and after realizing that it is his daughter, he lowers his gun and lets them in. Inside the disorderly abode, Andreas notices the various newspaper clippings that are posted on the wall. While Tobias attempts to discuss their content, Nora quickly informs him that something came out of the mountain today. She shows him the footage from the earlier mining disaster, informing him that they have tried to follow the footprints, but it leads nowhere. She then asks him if he can provide a scientific explanation for this without resorting to fairy tales and myths. But Tobias goes into a tirade that these are solid proofs that support the existence of trolls, which the government has tried to suppress and hide. Tobias then asks to come with them for an adventure, and Nora has no choice but to have her father join them because she needs his help. As such, they head back to the end of the trail of footprints, where Tobias eagerly looks around for any clue that will confirm the troll's existence. Upon checking the area, he then tells his daughter that the landscape has changed based on the map. While they are close to each other, Tobias takes this opportunity to tell Nora that she has lost her childlike curiosity and wonder, prompting Nora to tell him that she has simply grown up. Suddenly, the father and daughter notice an eye popping out from the rocks. As it turns out, the rocky region where they are standing is actually just a resting troll in disguise, therefore proving that trolls do exist. After they speedily escape via helicopter, they immediately send the footage of the troll to the military, alarming the Prime Minister and her cabinet members. For this reason, Nora, Andreas, Chris, and Tobias head to a nearby base to discuss with the Prime Minister what they have seen via video call. Tobias refers to the creature as a troll in front of the Prime Minister's cabinet despite Nora's warnings to her father not to use that word. He even claims that their interference with nature has prompted it to go on the rampage. The Prime Minister chooses to take military action against the troll because he does not want to believe the elderly man. Because of this, Nora criticizes her father for going on about myths and fairy tales once more. Then, Tobias informs her that their trip has only begun, unraveling Nora's innocent eagerness. Chris is urged by Nora, Tobias, and Andreas to permit their attendance at the military operation as a result. Chris finally gives in to their requests, but only if they will obey his instructions. The military action has now started at night. The father and daughter come to terms as they discuss their earlier times together as they wait for the troll to arrive. The troll finally shows up after some time, but it stops in its tracks. The general then gives Chris the go-ahead to start firing at the stone thing. The troll becomes even more enraged as a rocket missile strikes its body and causes a magical healing of its wound. Chris then gives the command for all soldiers to launch a full-scale assault. However, after realizing that their combined attack had little effect on the troll, the troops began to leave. During the mayhem, Chris, Tobias, Nora, and Andreas hide behind an overturned tree stump, alongside another soldier who is praying. Since the soldier is a Christian, Tobias tells the rest to leave the soldier behind. This is because trolls, according to legend, can smell people with Christian blood. As such, the troll quickly snatches the Christian soldier and eats him. But instead of fully running away, Tobias decides to befriend the gigantic creature, which he briefly manages to do. However, a stupid soldier attacks the monster from behind, and the gigantic creature becomes enraged again. In turn, the troll accidentally knocks Tobias away and attacks the soldier, firing at it before leaving. Despite surviving the impact, Tobias is severely destroyed. Before finally succumbing to his wounds and passing away, he then speaks cryptically to his daughter about a king and his palace. As a result, Nora sobs bitterly for her father, breaking the hearts of both Andreas and Chris. Soon after, Nora goes back to the military installation where she spends all night studying her father's notes. The next day, Chris tells Nora that they will launch an attack against the troll because it has stopped in another valley. Nora is puzzled by this because it would appear that the military did not take last night's lesson seriously. She tells them that there must be truth to all the fairy tales about trolls. As such, they inform the Prime Minister's cabinet about their plan to use mythology in handling the troll problem, but one of the cabinet members finds this absurd. But Chris, a non-believer, surprisingly vouches for Nora's proposal because he had witnessed firsthand that modern weapons have no effect on the creature. In turn, the general has welcomed this suggestion because they have to explore all possible options. As such, the Prime Minister agrees to go with her plan. However, they receive news that the troll is moving toward an amusement park. Because of this, they quickly execute their plan to subdue the creature. The plan is to confuse the troll by attaching giant church bells on 4 helicopters because trolls hate the sound of church bells. For this reason, they manage to temporarily suppress the troll. However, they have not foreseen that it will eventually fight back. The troll proceeds to swiftly take down 3 helicopters. But despite being irritated, the disgruntled troll still helps innocent humans by stopping a helicopter from falling to people below. The troll then leaves the park instead of continuing its rampage. Due to this very public event, the news about the stone creature spread around the globe like wildfire, which embarrasses the Norwegian government. Since the troll is reported to the capital, the Prime Minister believes that it must be taken down immediately by force. Nora, however, is still firm in her belief that the troll must be handled by other means, but the Prime Minister does not listen to her. Seeing that no one else will listen to her except Chris and Andreas, Nora leaves the building. Without Nora, one of the Prime Minister's cabinet members suggests that they use nuclear weapons against the troll even if it will destroy the city too. Because of this, Andreas immediately resigns and dashes to find Nora to inform her of the evacuation of the capital. Soon after, the Prime Minister herself declares in the press that a state of emergency has been declared in the capital owing to an immediate threat. People consequently abandon the area right away. Nora becomes focused on the term sinding, which appears frequently in her father's book, as Andreas, and she leaves the city. But she doesn't understand what it means. Then Andreas explains to her that it must be the name of the Lord Chamberlain who resides in the palace. Then, Nora recalls her father's remarks about a king and a palace. She realizes something and orders Andreas to return immediately and go to the palace. The guards quickly point their rifles at the two when they arrive at the palace of the capital. An elderly guy named Sinding appears out of nowhere and commands his soldiers to stand down. Then he tells Nora and Andreas that he was delighted to see Tobias' daughter because he had already planned on having a visitor tonight. Sinding then permits the two to enter the palace, where he tells Nora that despite Tobias's obstinacy, he was someone he knew well and admired. While leading the two to a secret location somewhere in the palace, Sinding tells them that, according to history, this palace was actually built on the palace of the Troll King. In a shocking revelation, Nora and Andreas find out that under the palace stores enormous bones, which belong to the trolls killed by humans a long time ago. It turns out that the troll they encountered earlier is the Troll King himself who was lured away from the palace during the period when Christianity was being spread. As such, the Troll King is simply heading back to his home, which is what Tobias had tried to tell his daughter before he died. Sinding claims that in order to prevent Tobias from discovering and revealing the truth, they put him to a mental hospital. The bones are burning, as Nora can see when she uses her UV light to monitor them. She then orders Sinding's largest vehicle after determining that the troll is vulnerable to direct sunlight. She then phones Chris to ask for his assistance with their plan once she has the car, and he readily agrees. They come up with a strategy that entails luring the Troll King out from the palace and into the neighboring park using the skull of one of his relatives because they have everything they need. Chris will then set up powerful UV lights in the park that will be used to subdue the enormous monster with the assistance of some of his soldier friends. While troops make every effort to subdue the Troll King with their assaults, the Troll King is moving gradually but steadily in the direction of the palace. Finally, the Prime Minister consents to the use of nuclear bombs because their weapons have no effect whatsoever on the creature. They act quickly to carry out their plan. Sigrid alerts Andreas about the military's catastrophic plan while the military is preparing the bomb. She then follows Andreas' instructions to buy them some time by breaking into the military's computer server. Just in the nick of time, Sigrid manages to successfully hack the system, preventing the military from proceeding with the bombing. With the military out of the way, Nora and Andreas come face to face with the Troll King. At first, the creature passes them by as they drive toward him. But when the skull behind the vehicle is uncovered, the Troll King becomes enraged and chases them instead. While being chased, Nora calls Chris to finish their preparation in under 10 minutes because they are heading there fast. After the call, Chris delivers a rousing speech to his fellow soldiers that they should act fast to save their beloved capital. The skull is dropped behind Nora and Andreas as they are driving to a bridge. The Troll King pauses and takes a long, saddened look at the skull and himself because he is the last of his race. The skull is then unintentionally broken when he drops it to the ground. The Troll King consequently loses even more patience with Nora and Andreas. The giant continues to pursue the two for this reason. The cabinet member learns that Sigrid is hacking their system as this is going on, and the military swiftly retakes control of the device. Nora and Andreas ultimately make it to the park where Chris and the other troops are hiding out. The car Andreas and Nora are driving is snatched by the enraged Troll King. Fortunately, the two are able to get out of the car in time. Chris and the soldiers turn on their UV lights once everything is ready. The Troll King can't tolerate the intense lights, and the blistering heat prevents him from moving from his position. When the military notices Nora and the others close, they are about to bomb the creature. Because of the civilian prisons, the general instructs the pilot to abandon the plan. Nora can't help but feel sympathy for the dying creature as the warriors already celebrate their win. As a result, she hastily switches off the UV lamps and orders the Troll King to leave. The Troll King is finally transformed into a giant boulder by early light, despite her greatest efforts to save the beast. Nora chooses the name Tobias Boulder in memory of her father. The Prime Minister and her officials come to the location right away to evaluate the large boulder. She tells Nora there that she admires what she has accomplished. The Prime Minister is then informed by Andreas that he will now pursue his passion of becoming a writer because he has resigned. Nora smiles as if she is eager for another adventure as Andreas wonders if there are any other trolls in the outdoors. During the closing credits, there is another movement inside the cavern from which the Troll King emerged, followed by a loud howl. If you like the video, subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and click on like to help the channel out. Thank you and take care.